Imagine a world shrouded in myth, where legends were born and history was first carved into bone. Long before the terracotta armies of the first emperor, long before the Great Wall snaked across the mountains, China's story began with a dynasty of warriors, mystics, and kings. This is the story of the Shang dynasty, the true dawn of Chinese civilization. Around 1600 BCE, while pharaohs ruled Egypt and Stonehenge was still a mystery, a powerful kingdom rose along the fertile banks of the Yellow River. This was the Shang dynasty, the earliest Chinese dynasty confirmed by archaeology. They weren't just a collection of scattered tribes. They were a unified force, an organized state that would lay the foundation for one of the world's oldest continuous civilizations. But what made them so powerful? The answer was forged in fire, bronze. The Shang were masters of a revolutionary technology. They discovered how to mine copper and tin, mix them in precise proportions, and cast them into something harder and deadlier than anything seen before, bronze. Their workshops weren't just making simple tools. They were crafting magnificent ritual vessels, intricate bells, and most importantly, an arsenal of lethal weapons. Bronze axes that could split a shield, bronze-tipped spears that pierced through leather armor, and bronze helmets that gleamed under the sun. This technological leap gave the Shang a military advantage that was almost unbeatable. Their neighbors, still using stone and wood, stood no chance. But bronze weapons were only half of the equation. The Shang paired this new metal with another game-changing innovation, the war chariot. These weren't clumsy carts. They were light, two-wheeled fighting platforms pulled by a team. A typical chariot crew consisted of 3 men, a driver, an archer armed with a powerful composite bow, and a soldier wielding a jay, a long polearm perfect for hooking enemies. Imagine a squadron of these chariots thundering across the plains, a terrifying combination of speed, mobility, and firepower. They were the tanks of the ancient world, allowing the Shang to strike with lightning speed and devastating force. At the heart of this military machine were the Shang kings. These weren't just rulers. They were seen as semi-divine figures, the link between the earthly realm and the spirit world. They ruled from massive, fortified cities, with walls of stamped earth so thick they can still be seen today. From their palaces, they commanded a complex society. There were the generals who led their armies, the farmers who cultivated millet and rice to feed the kingdom, the skilled artisans who crafted the bronze wonders, and a mysterious group of priests who held the key to the future. And that brings us to one of the most fascinating discoveries from the Shang era, the oracle bones. How do you make a decision when the fate of your kingdom is at stake? If you were a Shang king, you'd ask your ancestors. The process was incredible. A diviner would take a turtle shell or the shoulder blade of an ox and carve a question into it. Questions like, will the upcoming military campaign be successful? Or will the harvest be plentiful? Or even, will the queen's childbirth be auspicious? Then they would apply a heated poker to the bone, causing it to crack. The king, or his diviner, would interpret the patterns of these cracks to get an answer from the spirit world. The most amazing part? After the ritual, they would often inscribe the date, the question, and sometimes even the outcome right onto the bone. These inscriptions are the earliest confirmed form of Chinese writing. Tens of thousands of these oracle bones have been found, giving us a direct window into the minds of people who lived over 3,000 years ago. We can read their hopes, their fears, and their daily concerns. It's the world's first recorded queue and session etched in the pen. With their bronze armies and chariot legions, the Shang expanded their territory, creating a vast empire. Historical texts refer to the army of 10,000 chariots, a number that, even if an exaggeration, speaks to the immense scale of their military power. They weren't just raiding their neighbors. They were conquering them, absorbing their lands and people into a growing state. The Shang established a network of control, with regional lords pledging allegiance to the central king, creating a feudal-like system that managed their sprawling domain. Life in the Shang world was highly stratified. At the top were the king and the royal family, living in luxury within their palaces, surrounded by bronze treasures and jade ornaments. Below them were the nobles and warriors who enjoyed a privileged life of hunting, feasting, and warfare. Then came the artisans and craftsmen, who were respected for their valuable skills. And at the bottom was the vast majority of the population, the farmers, whose backbreaking labor supported the entire kingdom. It was a rich and complex culture, where art, religion, and war were deeply intertwined. The spiritual life of the Shang revolved around ancestor worship. They believed that the spirits of their deceased kings and relatives had immense power over the living world. They could bring good fortune or terrible disasters. To keep the ancestors happy, the kings performed elaborate rituals, offering sacrifices of food, wine, and sometimes, tragically, even humans. These rituals took place in grand temples, where bronze vessels held the offerings and the sound of bronze bells filled the air. The king was the chief priest, the sole intermediary who could communicate with these powerful spirits and the supreme god, Shangdi, ensuring balance and prosperity for his people. But like all great empires, the Shang dynasty was not destined to last forever. After nearly 600 years of rule, cracks began to appear, not just in the oracle bones, but in the foundation of the kingdom itself. Later, Shang kings became corrupt and tyrannical. They imposed heavy taxes on their people and spent lavishly on their palaces and tombs. Discontent grew. Meanwhile, a new power was rising on their western frontier, the Zhou. The Zhou were once vassals of the Shang. But under wise and ambitious leadership, they grew stronger, forming alliances with other disgruntled tribes. The final showdown came at the Battle of Mai, around 1046 BCE, according to historical accounts. The last Shang king, Di Xin, was a cruel and decadent ruler who had lost the mandate of heaven, the divine right to rule. His army was massive, but his soldiers' hearts were not in the fight. Many defected to the Zhou side. Defeated, Di Xin retreated to his palace, put on his finest jade-adorned robes, and set the building on fire, perishing in the flames. The Shang dynasty had fallen. But the fall of the Shang was not an end. It was a transformation. The Zhou took over, but they inherited and built upon the incredible foundation the Shang had laid. The system of writing that began on oracle bones evolved into the characters used today. The mastery of bronze work continued, reaching new levels of artistry. The political and religious ideas, like the mandate of heaven, would shape Chinese dynastic rule for the next 3,000 years. Military strategies, social structures, and cultural rituals all carried the indelible mark of the Shang, from the thunder of war chariots to the silent whispers of oracle bones. The Shang dynasty forged the soul of a civilization. They were warriors, innovators, and mystics who transformed a collection of riverside villages into one of the great Bronze Age empires. Their legacy is not just in museums or history books. It's embedded in the very fabric of Chinese culture. They were the first chapter in an epic story that is still being written today. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey back in time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to join us on our next historical adventure. See you next time.